today's video, I want to talk about why the Cleveland Browns have a Shedeur Sanders problem. Subscribe and like the video if you do go on to enjoy. Let's hop into it. So in case you guys missed it, last night we got to see the first ever action of Shedeur Sanders in a Cleveland Browns uniform. And simply put, I thought Shedeur played pretty damn well. Now, it was not a perfect day, and here in just a bit, we're going to go through some of the film and talk about what he can improve upon and what he did so well. But because of how well Shedeur Sanders actually performed in his preseason debut, it's kind of actually put the Browns in a really awkward situation. Now, quickly, let's hop into the film and talk about what Shedeur Sanders did good and bad, and then afterwards, we'll talk about why this is a really weird spot for the Cleveland Browns. So, unfortunately, there is no all-22 films. We're just going to watch it from the broadcast angle. Now, I want to begin with the positives, and then I want to talk about some of the plays that he probably could have done a better job on. This is his first touchdown throw right here. You can see this is going to be a boot out to the left of the offense here. You're going to have a high-low concept with 80 being the low concept, and I'm not sure who the number is on the top, but there's going to be a high concept up here. This is a really tricky play within the red zone because if you're going to throw this ball, you have to throw this ball essentially perfectly. This ball has to have good zip, has to have good layering to it, and it can't be a throw that you just kind of dolly up there, because if that's going to be the case, you will throw an interception. Or if you're not going to throw an interception, the ball will at the bare minimum be tipped or potentially picked off. As you can see here, Shedeur plants his feet, gets a nice good motion on it. As you can see, the defender right here is starting to sink back to this high throw right here. Shedeur puts enough zip on it to throw the ball in between this corner and that corner. And as you can see, touchdown on the very first play. This is a really high level throw. I've seen NFL quarterbacks make this mistake very often, where when they get right here, they're going to try to just layer this football with not much zip on it. But when you just kind of throw the ball up there, it allows this defender to sink back and make a play on it. I'll show you an example here in just a moment. But as you can see, Shedeur instantly sees that really good, quick motion right there. And for people that don't talk about his arm talent, this is one of those plays that you can look at and say, this looks like a little Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen like throw. Like, look how easy this throw looks for him right here. Right on the money, in between two defenders. This is high level stuff. Now, here's an example of what I'm talking about, where if you do not throw this ball with precision and you just kind of throw it up there, it can end up in a pick. There's a high-low concept here. I think CD's running the high and Tolbert's running the low. And as you can see right here, he's just going to kind of throw this ball up. You can see Dak is starting to get the ball out. This is well timed by Dak, and this is probably the right idea, but you can see this corner right here is not committed to this underneath defender, so he's going to just sink back and have like one of the easiest interceptions of his career. What Dak should have done is notice how far back Branch was playing here and just kind of threw it to Tolbert. But you can see Branch is able to flip his hip. CD is going to run right out here. Dak has to throw this ball perfectly. He can't layer this ball. This ball has to be thrown with zip right here into the corner and allow CD to go after it. He doesn't do so. Branch is able to sink back, and because the ball is thrown like a lollipop, Branch is just able to intercept the ball. Now, in fairness to Dak Prescott, he wasn't, having a play action. There was no bootleg to make the throw a little bit easier. He was just sitting in a pocket where the pocket was collapsing. So that's a tough throw to make. But with Shedeur here, you can see a little bit of a different setup to the play, but he's able to get this ball, and he throws the ball perfectly with zip, with time, well timed, and not just throwing it up there. He makes a really nice throw. This play right here might be arguably his most impressive play of the day. I don't think it was his most impressive, but definitely his best playmaking of the day. So immediately right off the bat, I think if you were Shedeur and if you were a coach, you would say you need to get this ball out with better timing, because you have three guys. You can't see it. My face is covering it, but there's somebody right underneath me here where you have three guys that are pretty wide open on a 2nd and 12. That if he takes a quick drop back and just throws it to one of these hitches, it's going to get you 4, 5, 6 yards. Shedeur does not go with that. He tries to make the bigger play. I do think this is something that the coaching staff will say, hey, next time, just throw it to one of these guys. And I'm sure Shedeur would do so next time. Shedeur, though, is able to bail out, roll out to the right, has a defender right in his face. You also have two guys coming right behind him. So this is kind of a high pressure spot right here. But Shedeur is able to stay calm, and there's a guy literally right in his face. This guy is right up in his grill. And Shedeur is as calm as ever, layers a really nice ball right here to the receiver. Now, the receiver does have to make a one-handed catch, but this is a really small, probably not greatest athlete receiver. If this is a Jerry Jeudy or a David Njoku or, an NFL caliber receiver, not saying this guy's not, because he's better than probably most guys out there, but if this is a high-level NFL player, it's a pretty easy catch right here. Shout out to him. I think this is the same guy that had the really bad punt return where I think he could have just let it go out the end zone. He makes a nice one-handed catch again. Shedeur Sanders, in an ideal situation, he hits his drop back, and this ball is already released to one of these hitches right here, or there's another one beneath me. But because he doesn't time that very well, I will give him credit for rolling out and making a nice play. You can see guy right into his face. He's calm. He's entering into his motion right there, and a beautiful throw. Now, this I think is going to be his next touchdown play right here. You can see there's a blitzing linebacker that has a wide open lane to just go after Shedeur. This running back has not yet committed to this block, but you're going to see here in a minute, this guy does a whale of a job of just giving Shedeur enough time. You can see right there, 39, heck of a job here. This is something that you're going to see coaches just rave about in practice or during film. I'm sure they're going to talk more about this block than even Shedeur making a play. But going to Shedeur here, this is really good stuff. So Shedeur is going to instantly see this pressure. And what you don't want to do when you're a rookie quarterback is eye down the pressure and not keep your eyes downfield. The last thing you want to do is stare at the pressure and just let it come after you. You want to keep your eyes constantly moving, and Shedeur does this really good. This is something that Tom Brady has made a career out of. He did this so often in New England. When there was pressure up the middle, he stayed calm. He kept his eyes downfield. He moved within the pocket, and it was a beautiful stuff. And this is exactly what Shedeur does here. You can see pressure right up in the middle, and he's able to drift over to the right side into the middle of the pocket here. And what you don't want to see from a rookie quarterback, or what you, I guess, could see sometimes from a rookie quarterback, is for them to have this pressure and end up floating out here and trying to make a play. I saw this so often with Caleb. We see this with so many other rookie quarterbacks, but he doesn't do that. He knows that he has a good pocket. He sits in, maybe in an ideal spot here instead of, being right here. He's a few yards up, like right here, but that's kind of nitpicky stuff. But he moves over into the line, stays within the pocket. If he ends up rolling out, then this guy's probably going to eat him up, or it's going to make it really difficult. But he sets his feet, he plants, and you can see, look at this pocket he has here. Shedeur Sanders knows he has time, dials it up. Beautiful ball right in here in between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defenders. Not saying that this is all 5 guys are on this guy, but there's 5 guys in his vicinity. He has to throw this ball with zip and right into a nice spot. He does so. This is the last play I want to talk about, and there's a couple other really good plays where he plays with really well timing. We'll talk about some of the pros and cons of this game here in just a little bit. But this is 3rd and 9. You're lined up basically, half a yard or a yard and a half away from your end zone. This is a high pressure situation where you have to get this ball out fast, or this defensive line, they're going to get after you. You can see when Shedeur gets to his final drop back, he is maybe 3 yards into his own end zone. And you have, I think, 2 guys right here that are getting past their linemen and are going to be able to make a play. It is 3rd and 9. What you really want in this situation is just to get enough yards to either punt the ball away or to get a first down to try and potentially flip the field and maybe mount a bit of a drive. But Shedeur, he does not drift. He does not roll out. You can see 2 guys are breaking free, and Shedeur Sanders is as calm and poised as ever, loading up for this throw, and it is pretty well placed. Now, I don't really love the timing of it, and I'll talk to you in just a moment about this, but I just want to give him his praise here. This is a really well thrown football with pressure in his face, on time, letting the receiver run with the football. The reason why I say I don't love the timing of it is you can see, I'll move myself real quickly. This is the receiver he's throwing to. And by the time that Shedeur starts to those football, the receiver has already made his break. You can see he makes his break right in just a few seconds. Right now, he makes his break. Right now, this ball should probably be out of Shedeur Sanders' hand and layered right on the hash mark somewhere. But it ends up kind of working out. Again, that's a bit more nitpicky stuff. The ball is really well placed. And, I think for the most part, it's a really nice throw by Shedeur. Now, unfortunately, the play prior, I do think kind of starts some of the negatives that I did see with his game. This is a play right here where it's 2nd and 7. You just want to gain a couple yards, so maybe you can make a 3rd and 2 or a 3rd and 3 or something along those lines. You're just trying to get enough yards, and the concept they're going to run here is this guy's going to run a hitch, and you're going to have these guys kind of running right here to kind of help set him up with some blocks if this guy makes the play. And what you're going to see, Shedeur drops back. This ball should be out right now. If this ball is not thrown right now, if this cornerback right here is a Trevon Diggs, a Pat Surtain, a Sauce Gardner, a JC Horn, any of those high-level corners, this play is going for 6, right? You can see Shedeur. I don't know if he hesitates or if he just doesn't play with great timing here. I don't really know what happens, but he's just a little bit late. You can see the ball is coming out right now, and this guy's already coming downhill. Now, what you're going to see is this guy kind of hesitates and allows the receiver to come back for the football. And the ball also is a little bit behind the receiver too, so that ends up kind of working in his own favor. But again, if this is a high-level corner, this is a absolute pick 6. You can see right here when this ball is, kind of getting to the receiver, this corner is already breaking on it. And again, if this is a high-level guy, it's a pick. Unfortunately for the Panthers, that's not the case. 84 is able to get the ball here, but in an ideal world, I want to see him get that ball out a little bit earlier. Now, this is not necessarily a terrible play from Shedeur. He is going to break out of a pretty messy pocket right here, and he's going to be forced to roll out to his left, where he's not as comfortable throwing or making plays as basically any quarterback that is a righty would feel. But he's going to just kind of miss a wide open throw right here. You see, he just tries to layer it in there, and he's just going to miss the throw quite by, like, I don't know, maybe a foot over him. All right, this is 4th and 2. This is a terrible concept from the offensive coordinator. It really does put Shedeur in a really bad spot here. Regardless, though, I don't think Shedeur makes his job really any easier. There's going to be pressure here from Carolina with 3 guys coming off the right, and I think this corner is also going to be blitzing here too. You should see that this cornerback right here is going to be blitzing, and you should try and hit this guy on what could potentially be a hitch or a bit of an out route. Unfortunately, he does not see that, and by the time that he gets his eyes to that spot, basically everybody is covered. Again, this is a really bad play design from the offensive coordinator, so I can't really blame Shedeur too much. But in an ideal world, he steps into a throw, and maybe he just tries to hit this guy with timing, or maybe he tries to make a play right here. Really, nobody's open, but you don't really want to do what Shedeur does here, which is hold on to the football, run around like it's preschool, and yeah, it doesn't really work out for him. Now, this is another really not great play from Shedeur, but I don't really think it's necessarily a bad job by him necessarily. It's just one of those things where it's 2nd and 13. You have a guy who's wide open here. There's also somebody right here who's wide open too, or at least starting to come open. If this ball is already out, this is an easy 4 or 5 yard gain. Same thing down here. He holds on to the football though, and he's going to try to hit this guy who's going to be running a bit of an in-breaking route at the sticks. But it's pretty well covered, and this ball has to be thrown basically right now. You can see that it's a really tight window throw. If he throws this ball, like, I don't have the all 22 film, so there might be a safety here, but if there's not, then if you could throw the ball like right over here where you can see my mouse is, if you could throw that ball with like some really good zip, maybe it could be caught. It's really tough though. I do like how he's staying in the pocket and not, freaking out and rolling out or anything. It's a pretty fine pocket, but it is going to kind of collapse on him. As you can see, he's kind of stepping on his own players, and he throws his ball kind of in a weird spot. This is really not a great thrown ball. If this ball is a little bit more on the outside, like right here, maybe the receiver can make a play on it. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and the corner almost comes down with the interception right here. So all in all, I thought Shedeur did a lot of good things. I think for his pros, I thought when the play was really simple and he just had to do a quick 3-step drop, I thought he played with really good precision, really good timing. I thought he was also pretty darn good when he got into the red zone. In terms of some things that I think he can work on, I think when the pocket is collapsing, sometimes he likes to drift a little bit. This is something he did in Colorado a crap ton, but I thought it wasn't too bad today, but I counted maybe 2 or 3 times where he did so. If he doesn't drift back, then I think he could probably just throw the ball away or hit somebody underneath. It's okay to drift if you are a Herbert or an Allen or a Lamar who has insane quarterback arm talent. But unfortunately, Shedeur just doesn't have that arm talent to, work his way out of when he is drifting. So in general, I think for the most part, that is something to work on. But all things considered, I thought he did a really good job. Granted, against Carolina and their really shitty defense, but he was able to move the ball up and down the field throughout the first half. And even in the third quarter, he did have a drive that got into the red zone. I think Shedeur could play better, but I think he played pretty darn well versus a Carolina team that was actually playing a couple starters. How does this kind of work back to what I talked about at the beginning? How is this a Cleveland Browns issue? Well, let's look at the facts. Cleveland drafted Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round. They made a trade for Kenny Pickett. They decided to pick up Joe Flacco. And what did they do with their 1st round pick? Oh, they had the chance to take Travis Hunter, said, no, we're going to go ahead and trade back a few spots and take Mason Graham, who, by the way, I thought played pretty fine in this game as well. Nothing special, though. And what did they do with that trade? They have now 2 1st round picks in 2026. And who happens to be the quarterbacks coming out in 2026? Well, Lenora Sellers, Garrett Nussmeier, Cade Klubnik, Drew Aller potentially. We can talk about Arch Manning, although I don't think Arch will be a Brown. Just saying, Arch Manning may be there too. There are a lot of really interesting quarterback prospects that are coming out next year, and I think that the whole plan prior to the Shedeur Sanders pick was to have Dillon Gabriel be the backup quarterback, and then they would draft a quarterback in the 2026 NFL draft to be their future guy. But when you did draft Shedeur Sanders, all of a sudden it kind of put a bit of a wrench into everything. And in almost a gift to Shedeur, every single quarterback just got hurt in the battle for the starting spot. So Shedeur had basically 2.5 quarters to go out there and play well and show what he can do, and he did so. Now, do I think Shedeur Sanders will move up the depth chart after this game? Probably not. Maybe he would. I personally believe that the Browns do not want Shedeur Sanders to be their franchise quarterback. Even if he does play well in preseason or in training camp or anything like that, I think the intention for Cleveland is to not have Shedeur Sanders be their franchise guy. I think that they are wanting to take a quarterback in 2026. Here's the issue though. If Shedeur Sanders keeps up this level of play and clearly continues to outplay Flacco, Pickett, and Gabriel, like from what we've heard he's been doing in training camp with limited reps, and from what we saw in this preseason game where he looked really good, then you are going to see Browns fans chanting, "We want Shedeur," whenever their team is down 7 or 10 points versus another team. Like, imagine it's week 1. Joe Flacco steps out there. Shedeur Sanders is your 3rd or 4th string quarterback. Your team is now down 14-0 at the end of the second quarter. You're now going into halftime. I would put money that there are going to be Browns fans with signs, with Shedeur faces, with the watch, people that are going to be chanting his name. It's going to be a Shedeur Sanders buzz across the entire stadium of Cleveland, which is a major problem for the Cleveland Browns because the Browns, as I mentioned, do not want Shedeur Sanders to be their guy. But if the fan base wants Shedeur to be the guy, but the front office does not, all of a sudden you have a bit of a conflict of interest. Now, is Shedeur good enough to be a really good starting level quarterback in the league? He could. I don't think that he's a high level starter in the league, but let's be honest, Cleveland hasn't had even an average starting quarterback since prime Baker Mayfield. When I'm gonna say prime, but Baker Mayfield for a few years, and then they traded him away for Deshaun Watson. But prior to 2 really good years from Baker, I shouldn't say really good, but decent years from Baker, they haven't had a good quarterback in 15, 20, 30 years. So now they're kind of, pigeonholing themselves a little bit to where they have to make a decision on what they want to do with Shedeur Sanders. And I personally believe that if Shedeur Sanders continues to outplay the other quarterbacks on this depth chart, I feel like you have to do what's best for your team to give your team the best chance to win, and that is to start Shedeur Sanders. But again, I don't think the Browns have really any intention of wanting to do that. I don't think they want Shedeur to be their guy, which really puts this team in a bit of an awkward situation where they might be in a situation where the best quarterback on their roster is not their starting guy. Rather, he's the 4th string on the bench. And I think it's actually kind of a shameful thing for the Browns, because if you took Shedeur Sanders' name and you replaced it with Greg Scott, and Greg Scott was the son of a farmer in Tennessee, I would put money that Shedeur Sanders would have ended up being a 2nd or 1st round pick and would have the chance to be a starting quarterback for another team. But because his name is Shedeur Sanders and he is the son of Hall of Famer Deion Sanders, and because he's grew up with money, because he likes to flex his watch, because he is a bit, I don't want to say a headache because I don't think he's a headache, but a bit of an outgoing person, because he's that, there are teams that don't want him to succeed, which I think is kind of shameful. But because he's none of those things, all of a sudden you're seeing a situation where he's the 4th string on the bench. So all in all, this is a really interesting situation to see what's unfolding down there in Cleveland. I don't really know if Cleveland even themselves has any idea what they're getting themselves into. When they selected Shedeur Sanders, I think they instantly brought in a whole host of controversy and questions and, media attention that, frankly, had they just not took Shedeur Sanders, they probably could have ended up avoiding it all entirely. But for Shedeur, if he just continues to ball, continues to put his head down, say the right things in the media like he has been doing, then I think there's a pretty good chance he might be the week 1 starter for this team, because it's pretty clear and obvious he's the best guy out there. I'm sorry. I've seen Kenny Pickett start for Pittsburgh. He was not good at all. I'm sorry. Joe Flacco's 40 freaking years old. There's no way in hell that he's going to be your starting quarterback behind that not very great offensive line. And I've seen Dillon Gabriel in college. I think he's a solid quarterback, but from what I've heard in training camp, he has not looked very good. And it doesn't really shock me that much, because Dillon Gabriel, to me, is just not a high-level L quarterback. That's why they drafted him in the 3rd round, and in my opinion, they drafted him to be their future backup quarterback for the next 5, 6, 7 years. But when they took Shedeur, It's really making this thing a little bit awkward. So I'm really intrigued to see how this ultimately ends up going. I think this Browns team is not very talented, but I think if you do give Shedeur the first team reps with Njoku, with Jerry Jeudy, with Sampson, with, you know, all those guys on the offensive line, I think this offense could actually be, you know, relatively decent. I'm not saying Shedeur is going to go out there and make a Pro Bowl or an All-Pro or anything like that. I'm not saying Shedeur is going to be that good. But if you tell me that Shedeur starts all 17 games next year, I think he'd play fine. I mean, this is not a great Browns team, but I think they have a good head coach. I think they have enough talent to get around. So if you are the Browns and you want to have an average offense, I think your best chance is to probably rock with Shedeur Sanders and see if he can be your future guy. And by the way, if Shedeur can be your guy, then you have 2 first-round picks next year to potentially add a wide receiver 1, or to potentially add a new offensive tackle, or maybe add a corner on defense, or whatever you want to do. So I'm really intrigued to see how this ultimately ends up going. You let me know in the comment section below. What do you guys think of Shedeur Sanders and the Browns? And if you enjoyed, hit the like and subscribe button. Love you guys. Peace.